The three questions are really simple. There's nothing complicated in the questions we need to answer before starting our own practice. Questions which you must answer. Basically, why do you want to start? When is the best time for you in particular to start your practice? And where do you see yourself set up your architecture practice? I think there's also another disclaimer which I usually give in almost all my sessions, that I see that there's a difference between advice and tools. The discourse which we usually see in a lot of mentorship or in colleges also is that you will get on such topics a lot of advice from multiple people, but the advice you get may not always resonate entirely. I may be giving you the best advice today, and I may be the best person to give you this particular advice, but there are high chances that only 50% of that will apply to you, because we're all in different contexts, we are all from different places and in different situations. So to give you an example, this is the kind of advice I used to get when I was starting out as an architect. One of my professors famously used to say that you need 555 days after graduating to start your own practice, be it in more education or be it more experience. But we had no idea how he came up with this figure, but he was famous for this quote. And till date, I don't understand any piece of advice which came from that direction. There are people who will tell you that you need at least 5 years, 6 years of work experience before you start. Again, it is very different for everyone. You have to select your own path, and we will be going into such details in the coming session and also the workshop which I'm conducting later. And there's also this big question about whether to do masters, how important is education, how much of education do you really need before starting, So advice is on one side, but I really believe in tools, For example, if I have like a problem in my house, if something's broken, this is actually not my theory. I'm not that original. This is from Scott Adams. He is the creator of Dilbert. And yesterday I was listening to a video where he was giving a lecture about tools you need to take more seriously as compared to advice you receive. And I believe that if you have one tool to repair something which is broken in your house as compared to like a box of tools, you are in a better position with the box. You have better chances of approaching and attacking that problem. And this does not just apply to the question at hand about practice or architecture. This is a very general principle which we can follow in day-to-day life. So when it comes to practice, I think tools such as having a very strong reason at hand, having enough self-assessment of what you're really good at, where your interests lie, why you really chose to become an architect, and having some really basic business skills. And there are some more tools definitely which you'll learn further in the session and in the workshop. But this is basically going to be the discourse, So starting with the first question which you need to answer for yourself, I think we can start with your feedback on the question, why do you want to set up your own architecture practice? If you guys can share in the chat box, it'll be interesting to see.
Guys, so since we're sort of a very small eclectic bunch for this particular webinar, let's be more interactive and more open towards this particular topic. And we actually have got some interesting response to do something new by Srishti Mahajan to create an identity.
Okay. Sure to take steps ahead in running.
To be free and be independent. That's nice.
Free and be independent. Okay, creative freedom. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
To do what I wish to do. Money is always a point, I think.
Good sum of money.
Good sum of money.
Yes. Okay. So to learn more. Yeah. So I think, so let's move further with the presentation, and let's try and look at this one basic question of why you wish to start. See, the thing is, when we had also started our practice, we had these very generic ideas in mind, and one of the first ones was, let's try and change the world with our practice. So I think that's what even architecture schools and our curriculum also teaches us, that it is possible. It is possible. I'm not denying it's not possible. It's a little generic for my understanding now that I have been in practice for 5 years. One of the reasons can be that you be of service, which is valid. Again, earn money. It's a little tricky. A good sum of money, as one of you guys have written, it's tricky, but it is a very, very valid reason. Sometimes you are just like, why not? I have enough training. I am an architect. I have a degree. So why not? Let's just start, So on these questions, I have a slightly contrarian view on these answers in particular. The question is good. But the answers are, to me, a little generic. I think now that you have taken that decision, that come on, let's just start. I would say that don't fall into a very generalized set of answers. What you can do is dig a little bit deeper, slightly more into the question, as well as answer for yourself very, very basic questions. Kind of break it down. Why do you really want to? What do you really want to do by setting up your practice? You may go back to a question which you might or might not have asked yourself several times. Is, why did you really become an architect? Sorry, you wanted to?
Sagar, can I intervene here?
Yeah, please.
Can we do something? Can we have, let's say, some people talk about the reasons why they became an architect simultaneously?
Sure. Yeah.
So, do we have a raise of hands? Guys, we can unmute you in case you want to be a part of this webinar.
That'll be very interesting. Yeah.
Come on, guys, volunteers. Okay, so I can talk about why I wanted to be an architect, since I can
please.
hands.
Yeah.
So it was actually a very lame reasons. I liked drawing, and this is something when I was 17, right? So I liked drawing, and I sort of liked science in a way. And this stupid Sharma auntie, how you have Sharma neighbor aunties, and she just came and she said, "Oh, you should be an architect." And that's how it all began. So initially, I had no idea of why I wanted to be an architect.
That's really interesting. Yeah, even my reason were actually similar while starting. So I totally understand. So yeah, I think digging further deeper into the same question would lead you to ask oneself, what issues do you really like to solve the most? You being a student, or you being, I think 70% of you guys are students right now, and 20% working professionals also may be dealing with issues which they can solve through design, And if there are particular issues they think that they can really solve through their own design or architecture practice, maybe it's a valid question to ask yourself before you jump into practice.
We actually have a very interesting answer in the chat box by Fedus Adam.
Okay. I'm going to bridge the gap
yes,
between the lecture and course.
Would you like to talk about your reason in detail? I've unmuted you. Adam? Okay, so he's mentioned that he wants to bridge the gap between the richer and poor societies through architecture.
That's a very interesting take on it. Um, that's actually, if that were my reason, I would have started my practice way before. I didn't have so much clarity even while starting. But that kind of answers the third question on the list, which is what motivates you to design. If there is that angle to your everyday life, and it doesn't really have to be as an architect, who you are as an architect or a designer. If you really care about issues such as Firdos has mentioned, bridging the gap between, then you will find way through whatever you do. So I think, having said that, digging deeper into the why question is what is the first step you have to do before starting your business. I'll give you a little bit of personal story at this juncture. Is what motivates me to design. Personally, I get very easily irritated when I'm inconvenienced, and this is not something which I started my architecture practice with, but now when I was thinking about it while making the presentation, I realized that, yeah, this is something which I really hold close to me, that I want to minimize inconvenience in whatever way, right? So, and it's not just through design. It's not that my client's inconvenience I want to mitigate through design. It's also the process of dealing with practice, the process of getting your house built, the process of financing a project. So I think minimizing inconvenience has been from the beginning for me personally. It gives me satisfaction, and that's what we kind of embrace in our practice as well. So one big suggestion for all you guys would be, once you find one or two very simple answers of why you want to start your own practice, I would say go all out and embrace it. And by that I mean, you have to make sure that when you start your practice, you have to hold on to this value, which is the strong reason, which I had mentioned before, that it is a tool that's your most powerful tool before you start your practice, the why. If you observe in my intro, I have also mentioned that 4 out of 5 clients claim that I'm the easiest architect to work with. So because I am all for minimizing inconvenience, wherever I get a chance, I tell people I am the easiest architect to work with, and I'll make your life easy, not just through design, but through the entire process. So that's what I'm saying about embracing the why.
Sagar, could you please?
Sure.
The joke, the 5th client is my father.
That was actually, this is a bio which I write for my blogs, and it gets a lot of laughs usually here. Unfortunately, I can't see if someone's really getting that joke or not. But yeah, it's very difficult to work for family. I don't know if you can take it as a pro tip from this session, that it's one of the most difficult jobs to work for your family. Right? Okay. So yeah, moving on to the when question. I hope I'm not going too fast. Am I, Arunma?
No, it's completely fine.
Okay.
Yes.
So, you guys can also now write in the chat box as to when do you think is the best time for you to start. And feel free to just say, I don't know, because you don't have to. Otherwise, you would have already started, if it was. But I just want to see your responses. No clue. First answer.
So when I was in first year, all I wanted to do was set up my own practice, because I couldn't listen to interest in me that this design cannot work and design cannot work. And I always thought that, when I'll be my own architect, I'll be able to design. But now I am a graduate, I can feel that I can, technically, officially design. There's so much hesitation and there's so much inhibition to start something on your own. There's just so much burden of responsibility in a way.
Totally. But I would just say one thing, that you have to learn it the hard way. Then, I mean, once you step into the game, all you have to do is keep moving forward. You have to learn every day. And that's kind of what motivates us. We're getting some interesting answers on the chat box. 3 years of experience.
Before
I don't
starting.
know, but should we get some experience before starting? Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Okay. So this is actually, I think I've heard at least 500 times around me, and even I have been a part of this conversation. Ki, yaar, why don't you just start? And like, no, man, I don't feel confident enough. What is this confidence which we keep talking about all the time? Let's try and answer through an example. Let's take a very general example of setting out on a trek. What do you need? How do you start? You need to have a strong.
I think we do have a poll here.
Sorry?
I think before this we do have a poll here.
We do have a poll here. Okay.
About the confidence?
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Yes. So I guess you guys are seeing on your screen a poll. So I want to know from you guys what. Okay. More experience. It's fairly equal. I think our choices were very fair,
So I'm ending the poll.
Okay.
And I'm sharing the result with everybody.
Projects in hand is the most popular choice. It is true. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's true. It's a good way of, I think you guys must have observed that we are really breaking it down to very simple questions, all these what, why, where. You don't have to get bogged down by the complexity of all this. And we are always here to help you guys out. But through this example of setting out on a trek, let's see, you first have to have a really strong desire to set out. Otherwise, just don't, The other biggest challenge is knowing the direction, otherwise you get lost. You have to know the risks and challenges involved. You can't just be like, I want to walk in this direction and keep walking, Also, at the same time, you have to have an emergency plan or a backup plan. In case things go wrong, what do you do? It's actually, before you start any business, this is going to be true. About an architecture practice also, all of these things apply. So I highly recommend you start looking at architecture practice as a business and not just a design service which you are providing. I'm sure 1:X also has a very good session on treating architecture practice as business. So I think that's a topic for probably another session. So what we need to answer here is what exactly will give you enough confidence in starting your own architecture practice. So you guys have kind of understood the options which we had in front of us. One really interesting point over here is partnership, which we don't really talk about often. But one of the biggest challenges of starting a practice is starting alone. And trust me, with not just a partner or a collaborator, or that someone else is also starting simultaneously, it gets really easy to discuss issues, to solve some. Basically, on a day-to-day basis, you can just share your experiences with someone while starting. So I think education there are actually multiple opinions on that. A lot of people will give you advice on, master's degree or no master's degree, or you start immediately after this thing. So we will basically also be breaking this down further in the workshop. But I think right now the idea is to just give an example of how do you build confidence. You have to answer these things for yourself. Number of projects is in hand is a thing which is very crucial. So through experience of most practices which started kind of at the same time when we started, we were lucky enough to have to be in touch with all the contemporary architects. We saw that the first few projects are always the easiest to get, because till you get the first few projects, you don't really start. You ask around, ask some of your seniors also. They will give you this one piece of advice that have a few, big or small, it really doesn't matter, but you start. The bigger challenge is actually once you're done with those first two projects, how do you get your third, fourth, fifth project? That is where most of the architecture practices face challenges, because the first in the beginning, for example, I was working at an office. I got my first few projects back in my hometown, and I started off. While I was busy working on those projects, we kind of ignored the fact that we have to now also keep looking for new work, So that is a challenge which you have to address from the very beginning. So I have deliberately put this in the when question, because education and experience, we are still talking about a very design-oriented education and a design-oriented experience. But I think the places where you're working at or the colleges where you are, you please also try and observe, discuss it with your seniors and mentors, how their experience from a business perspective has been in starting and then sustaining a practice. And when you think you have enough answers, you have enough tools to venture into the project, into starting your own practice, that is when you should go ahead. That is what for me is a matter of confidence. Nima, you have a question.
If I may, yes. So we saw from the poll that a lot of people felt more confident if they, let's say, were in a partnership, if they shared sort of the burden of responsibility with somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to find that sort of professional compatibility.
Totally understand. Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
So when people don't find the professional compatibility, should they wait it out, or should they start it on their own?
Okay, it's very interesting. Thanks for bringing it up. Basically, when we answer, we are talking about a general self-assessment in all of these, in the workshop as well as in this session. You will realize, after having studied for so long and after having your work experience, what your personal skill sets are. You will also realize where you kind of fall short on as a professional. And it's completely fine. I can't be an expert at 10 different things. I can't even expect the other person to be. So, yes, it is very difficult to find a partner. But when you do, or when you set out, you have to really think about it carefully as to what skill sets are complementing your skill sets. And they shouldn't be too similar to your partners. Otherwise, you both will end up doing the same work. They shouldn't be, the ideas can match, but the skills should, it always benefits to have like a varied skill set. I have a partner in my office, and we have personally experienced this. And also, to come to your question, when it's difficult to find, so like it also so happens that for some projects, even the complete skill set of both the partners combined is also sometimes not sufficient. So, for example, we were doing an urban design competition this year, and none of us are urban designers in our office. So we had to look at project-based collaboration. And that is also something which today, out of all the times, it's become so much easier. So we collaborated with like we were working as a team of 8 architects, and none of these guys were in the same, like no two people were in the same city, and we ended up coming 10th in the competition or something. And it's phenomenal. Today we are so well connected. So finding people is not a difficult task. But then your point is very valid. How do you find and who is the right person? You can also do that. First, test out your partnership on a project basis, and then if it all goes well, then probably you get into a long-term partnership. That also is a very safe and a very sensible way to go about it. Yeah.
Thing that you mentioned competitions. So let's we don't have projects in hand. How do we go about it? Because I see a lot of young firms participating in endless competitions,
Yes.
not even tender competitions that are
Yeah.
pure conceptual.
Yes.
Yes.
So this will be a little digression from our topic. I hope that's okay but we are talking about it from a point of practice. And what we've also observed is that there's a lot of excitement about competitions early on, and because you have enough skills, you have a lot of time to spare on the competitions. You see that, yeah, there's a lot of young architects, freshers, excited, even senior students who are really excited and into
So
competition.
what is the reason behind it? Is it to sort of form a name in the community? Or is it to sort of build portfolios for new clients? So what is the reason for these competitions particularly?
See, they are a great way of building your portfolio, no matter what. They are. I'm not sure about building a name in business, because when it comes to practice, any client will ask you how much you actually built, and they will not look so much at your academic work. But I think it's still a good enough experience to show in your portfolio. But at the same time, let's also be aware that the competitions these days, there are like thousands and thousands of competitions coming up. So you have to be really selective, because a lot of competitions we've observed are actually they're very frivolous. They're not very serious. They're not the jury also. They don't declare till the end. So you have to be very careful when you're dealing with competition as students, especially because there may be chances that people sitting at the top are just hungry for 1,000 different proposals, and that's why it's very easy to start a competition. We can do it today, just start a competition and get work done for free. So I would say select those very carefully. Be sure that your work stays with you. It's not getting, not getting used by someone else without paying you. And I think it's a very good point. I think I am going to add this point to the workshop. So thanks, Arunima, for bringing this up. I wasn't expecting this discussion to go for so long, but I think now let's move on. It was really interesting. Thanks. And at the same time, guys, if you have similar questions, feel free to add it to the chat box. As in, when we see those, we'll try and answer if we have some time at the end.
We actually got one very interesting question that we have by Srishti.
Okay.
Srishti, please unmute yourself and ask the mentor your question directly. Okay. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Srishti.
So my question is how to get in contact with contemporary architects.
Okay. Are you asking this from a point of view of business or for jobs or?
For business.
Okay. So it's actually interesting. It also, from a personal experience, we used to work in Bangalore after our graduation, and Bangalore has a very tight, well-knit community of architects who keep interacting with each other on a regular basis through multiple talks, presentations. Some of these firms are also very actively involved in academics, and that's why they get in touch with students early on. So the students also know how to get in touch with architects in their city. So I think if that's your question, then I think I would recommend look for such meetups or get in touch with organizations which will help you to put in touch with contemporary architects. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. But
Okay.
I was thinking to start my practice in Indore, and
Okay.
I don't think there is any such platform.
Right. Yeah. So I think what you could do is in Indore or from wherever in Indore also, I'm sure that there must be a local COA group or there must be local IIA groups. To begin with, you can really start approaching them to get in touch with the larger community, and I'm sure you will find it because even I'm coming from I'm from Nagpur, and we have offices in Pune and Nagpur as well. So in both places, we are kind of associated with the COA and IA groups. So that's actually it helps to. It also helps to keep updated about the new regulations, or even to discuss issues relating to your particular area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if I may add to this,
Please. Yeah.
I think it's always nice to stay in touch with your alumni, the alumni network. It's very important to stay in touch with your alumni network and keep in touch with your professors. Because generally college professors, they know other college professors and they form some sort of a very tight knit group, and they can connect you with anybody in any place. Most professors. So that could also be one way of going about it.
Yeah, completely. Okay, so I think moving further we've kind of established that what really could give you confidence is having a fair amount of knowledge that helps you plan further. And you can basically find ways, just like Srishti also mentioned about getting in touch with contemporary architects, is a way of basically gaining that fair amount of knowledge, which helps you make more informed decisions while starting. So, coming to the third question, let's get some of your answers in the chat box once again. Where do you wish to start your own architecture practice? You can write the name of the city you want to. If you don't know, you can say you don't know. If you have multiple answers, please feel free to add.
Bangalore, Jaipur, Delhi, Indore, Delhi, NCR, Guwahati, Hyderabad, NCR, and less crowded area.
Very interesting. That's too interesting. Around less urbanized area.
So, Neha, if I may ask you, Mumbai or Pune are actually, Mumbai is a major metropolitan and Pune is extensively urbanized. So why such extreme choices that either Mumbai, Pune or less urbanized areas?
Actually, it's like because I studied in Mumbai and I stay in Pune with my family. So I've been very used to these two places and I know what potential it has. And otherwise, I have my relatives in places like Nagpur and Vidarbha. And these are the places where I've seen a lot of new architects coming up. And they say that they have great scope because these are places which are very new to such kind of architectural inserts. So either this or that, and I actually need to figure out which one. But yeah, these two options I guess I have.
That's
Great.
interesting.
Thanks.
And if I may ask Shivani, why a less crowded area? Because that's an interesting choice. Shivani Salvi, can you
Hello.
please unmute yourself? Yes, hi.
Basically, I am a fresh graduate right now. So for me, uh, starting my practice at a place where it is less crowded means there is a lot of scope over there. Same as Neha said, because they are new to architecture research over there. So it might be a nice opportunity. And also, I am more into I do not nothing against it, but I do not like the skyscrapers or the tall buildings. I'm more into simple, sustainable architecture. So I guess that would be the reason.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shivani.
Thank you.
And actually, we do have a contrary point of view by Lakshya Sharma, who's chosen all cities.
So there is reason for Jaipur, as Jaipur is my hometown, and I feel that the architecture style in Jaipur is not actually meant for Rajasthan. Like you see World Trade Park, which is a building full of glass, and Jaipur being a very which goes to like around 48 degrees centigrade. I don't think that it's suitable now in Bangalore, because my mom is from Bangalore. Secondly, I feel that Bangalore will help me in exposure of exposure and experience, I'd say, and then what I stated, I forgot the next one. I'm sorry, I have to see. Delhi again, same. The reason with Bangalore, exposure.
Great. Yeah.
And one last, I'm so sorry, Sagar, I'm sorry for
No issues.
presentation. But Adam, could you please tell us more about Khartoum?
Hi. Khartoum is the capital of Sudan, which is where I lived for my whole life, and it's the industrial and city metropolis where all the big companies are laying here. So I think it's a good choice to start here, where all the work and all the the industry already exists here. So it's just a place where to start.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thanks.
So let's move forward.
Yes. So I think these were very interesting locations, first of all, and very interesting reasons for starting your own practice. We all feel most comfortable in our hometown because we do have family connections, we have friends over here which we can also rely on for business. There are places we know, there are places we wish would be designed better, and like Jaipur, Laksh mentioned that he wishes it could just be a little more sustainable. 47 degrees and you're building a glass building. Come on, what is happening? So good motive. I think you really can have an office. You can start an office with just your laptop. And it's not like even I think 10 or 15 years back, you still needed a big setup with a lot of architects working for you. You needed a good cash flow. Otherwise, clients won't take you seriously. We were not so well connected with an online network. You could not really, it wasn't easy to have sites outside your city, because coordination was difficult. Otherwise, the architect will have to go and live there for 2-3 months, Today, thankfully, it's really easy to start your own practice from your home as well. So that's why I think when we kind of started out, we had these locations in mind. We had hometown, Himalayas we were thinking, because why not? Goa, of course, was an option. Place where we studied, places where we worked, places where our girlfriends or boyfriends were, and places where we've never been before. Places there may be a lot of architects interested in exploring new places, and that's completely. I mean, that's I think really interesting. If you're able to go and set up in a completely new context, I think that's going to be a little tough, but I think nothing more interesting than that. Um, so, which brings us to really ask, so how do you really take that decision? You have to make one choice at least to begin with. I would say let's branch this out into multiple questions and let's take a look at each one of them closely. Will I find potential clients in that place? Will my clients be able to find me easily? That's also a challenge because if you're talking about a really big city, it's great because it's very convenient to start your own practice over there. Maybe you have those many connections. Maybe you have for the exact kind of work which you want to do. Like for example, if you want to do luxury interiors, I think you can really set up in Delhi or Bombay. But will the clients be able to easily find you? Because it's also an equally competitive market. Think about all of these points. Take your time. You may take a screenshot or maybe we'll share this presentation with you. But go over this one by one carefully before you take a final decision. Will I find good contractors and or consultants? This is also very important for people who want to set up in remote places. It's tough to find good contractors and good consultants to work with. You are not going to work alone. Architecture is a collaborative process, and you have to give all of these things a thought. Will I get paid enough? That's another story altogether. You will observe that if we are talking about the Indian context or the subcontinent in general, every city has like these varied differences in fee structures, the standards which each city follows, based on the type of work, based on the experience you have. There are so many things involved. I will definitely be covering the payment and fee structure part in the workshop as well. But when selecting the place, please ask your contemporaries, your seniors, people who are working in the same city, how and what are the standards, commercial standards which you follow in the city. Will I find the kind of work I want to do? That's also very important. I think that I mentioned before. The type of work which you prefer should be available in plenty in the city. And will I have a decent social and professional life? That's it. You can't, I mean, if you prefer living alone, no issues with it. But after your office hours, you need a social life. You need to be around people who, I mean, this goes without saying. Wherever you're setting up, you have to make sure that you are comfortable. And it's convenient for you. You don't have to, Arunima, you want to add something to this?
I do actually. Now that you mentioned social, I think there's a saying that architects should be the most social beings because we work word of mouth. We work as with the, we're very social. We should be very social in general.
Yeah, but the sad truth is 90% of our friends are architects. That's
no
also
clients.
yeah. So, but it is true. You have to be social because it's a competitive market. Because you're not alone. You have to also, like I think Srishti had mentioned, you have to have a good professional life, even professional connections with other architects. It always helps to share basically with young practitioners and at least know what everyone is up to. Keep in touch regularly. If not locally, there are a lot of groups online at different, I'm sure even through 1:2X you can keep in touch with each other and share issues about practice and business and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a very important pro tip which I think is essential, that wherever on earth you set up your practice, you must have your presence at this one particular location. Does anyone want to guess? Take a wild guess. I mean, it's not an MCQ, or just take a wild guess. No.
No.
I'm
Wait, come on, guys.
Come on.
Oh.
Hey.
Online.
Those, yes. Online, you will find answers to all of these. You will find potential clients online. You will find clients will be able to find you. You may get paid enough. I should cut that will and say may, but you may get paid enough. So I think online presence is, it's mandatory. You can't not have a website. You can't have a social media. Can't not have a social media presence. I think this is also one of the very important topics when you are setting up. You have to make sure, and just by observation, just by plain observation, you can even, you can even just consult people from other fields. I have a few product designer friends. I have a few UX UI designer friends who help us out regularly when it comes to websites, when it comes to our social media platform. So even like services like 1is2x are actually great for students and architects to connect on topics of their interest. You can even find mentors of your choice. You can find students of your choice. So please maintain your online presence, and we'll talk about it in detail definitely in the workshop. Arunima, do you have anything? Because it's your stronghold, right? So.
Let's move on to the questions and answers, I think.
Okay.
So these were the questions that were collected during your registrations, and some of them were really interesting. So if we have Sakhi Gulati here, maybe she can ask a question in person. Okay, she's not here.
Okay. Fine, but I think it's an interesting question. That's why we included it at the top, that if it's important to do practical work along with undergrad studies, because it's what we are told to do and it's really difficult to handle. Although I wanted to say in the beginning that don't mix these two things up. I thought about it for 2 minutes, and now I am of the opinion that I think it's better. It's better because as a practitioner, you have to, time management is the key. You have to basically deal with different projects which are at different stages. Plus, you have to continue keeping on learning new things in your own field of interest or something. So I think it's not necessary, but if you are able to manage both at the same time, along with your undergrad studies, I think it will be much easier for you in practice to manage time.
I would like to add something, if I may.
Yes, please.
Of course.
I did internships in my second year and third year, and there's very small things like we work in meters, in metric scale in college, and the practice has always feet and inches, and it's very confusing how to balance these. When I'm in college, the faculty is asking me what is the dimension of this ball, and I'm like 3 feet, and he's like, feet? How dare you talk in feet?
Yeah, that happens for all of us, lost in translation on site.
Yeah, but don't worry about it. I think it is a matter of just 2 more projects in feet and inches and meters, and you'll learn.
You'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of experience. So don't worry too much about it.
Yes, so we'll move to the next question.
Yeah. Getting the big projects and then setting up the firm, or setting up the firm and waiting for the big projects to happen. See, the interesting term here is big projects. And what is big for you? If you are setting up, I think, for me, a project which will help me sustain through the next few months. I have to plan it, obviously. I can't just say sustain for the next 6 or 12 months. Have a definite goal in your mind. If you think the projects you are getting at the moment are good enough to help you sustain for the next time period which you define for yourself, I think you just start your practice. If you keep on waiting, it could go either way. You may just wait for another 10 years and you don't get the big project which you're waiting for. So I think it requires meticulous planning, and let's see if we can help you out further in the workshop on this point. But it's a very interesting question. Thanks for bringing it up, Chachi.
Hi, I have a doubt here.
Yes, please.
It's kind of related to the previous question. So I'm in the 5th year right now, and
Okay.
I am working with a friend of mine who has a farmhouse. And so they are asking me for ideas, which I'm giving as a friend. And so I'm not like a professional on board because I'm an undergraduate. So I'm giving my ideas, which, if you say harshly, it's for free. But then when does that translation happen, when you really start working and asking for fees even from people you know? Because kab tak we'll do it only for experience. At some point of time, it needs to get back to you with a payment also. So how do you make the translation happen?
It's a sad but true story. Initially, you will find a lot of friends and family asking for favors. I would say, if it's possible, do not take those up. It may sound a bit harsh, but if it's possible, if you're comfortable with saying no, please do not take it up. Otherwise, you may say that you want to reference it to some senior of yours or some office which you are on good terms with. It's always easier to discuss commercials like these and issues like these with a contemporary office. And if they want to take it up professionally and they want to pay you, they want you to work on it, and then they want to basically take your services through that office, that's another option. But as far as possible, try and reduce such kind of work which you do for free.
Neha, if I may also add here, so this is a very morally and ethical stand, and which is absolutely right, because when you indulge yourself in a project, architecture is no easier task. You spend a lot of time and a lot of effort. I mean, I've sort of picked up projects very randomly for my family members, and I actually have got a very bad reputation of not completed either of them, because I have no incentive, and also, it is sort of bombarded with so many things and so many tasks. It gets very difficult. So this is, I think, a fate that is shared by all doctors and architects alike. So, but, well.
Yeah. No, even the fact that you brought it up is interesting, because a lot of people don't even see the disadvantage in doing that. You know that you have to, that your opinion is an expert opinion. They're not going to a junior, they're not going to someone else, they're coming to you for your expertise and guidance, because you're from a good college, or you're from a, they must have seen something, so I think, if they're not paying you, I think just avoid. That's my humble advice.
Yeah.
So I think we
But
have
then,
a question.
if I might carry it forward, so what happens is, a lot of my relatives say that अब अगर project आ रहे हैं तो ले लो ना, because otherwise projects कैसे आएंगे? So that is when it gets very difficult to choose out of whether to charge for it or do it for friendly relations. But yeah, it kind of answers my question.
See,
It needs to happen at some point.
Yeah, it's a call. It's a call you need to take. Definitely, there are some projects which you will clearly see from the beginning that this project, if I do it for cheaper or for free, but if I do it for cheaper, may lead to a series of projects later on. And if the client is that serious about giving you the next work, you have to take a call. So I think it's up to you, and different from project to project also.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Shraddha, could you please, I think Shraddha is here. Would you like to talk to the mentor about your question?
Our question was the one before, right?
No, this is...
Oh, okay, this is the... okay, yeah.
Okay, well, what are the disadvantages of running your own practice?
Okay, I think we all know the one major disadvantage is that a constant cash flow, as opposed to when you're on a job, you get a salary, as opposed to here you have to basically rely on the amount of work coming in. But there's also a second disadvantage. I don't see it as a disadvantage personally, but it's also very important that basically having your own practice is a full-time job. There are no holidays. So it so may happen that when you can't really take days off or months off, which your job may offer you, So I think it's important to acknowledge that before you start. Personally, I feel that these are the two main disadvantages. Otherwise, I think if you're okay with the other minor issues, then you're good to go.
One thing I wanted to ask you as a very personal question, and you may choose to not answer it, but have you ever experienced haggling by clients?
Yeah, I mean that's
creating
creating a very like an awkward situation. That's what you're talking about, no? When it comes to fee negotiations.
Yes.
It's tough. It's so. If you're asking me what we did, because we had a little bit of extra time in our hands, we found out locally that there was a sales and marketing seminar happening, last year. So we're like, chalo, because we architecture schools don't teach us anything about business or marketing or anything. So we went and attended that. A lot of the gyan which I am giving you over here also may come from that place, because they were training industrialists or startups or small business owners on the basics of sales and marketing, and setting minimum fee structure, planning it out. There were points about discounting, there were points about negotiation, which are really interesting. There were very important points being discussed, and people charge a hefty amount to train people on soft skills, So that's also a very interesting point. I wouldn't recommend you guys paying for all this and attending, but if you find a free sales and marketing seminar, please go and attend. It does help you. You kind of find parallels in between what they are teaching and what you as an architect will face in your life, even if they are not specific to architecture. Please attend.
If I may, I'm extremely sorry. Please don't misunderstand me that I'm doing cheap marketing here. But 1:X has actually curated a course on soft skills, and we'll be covering the points in the workshop as well. So in case you guys are interested, do check it out, because I personally attended and it was very nice. I mean, I understand these small marketing points are very important for a designer in any field.
Yeah, I think I'll attend personally. I want to. Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide.
So it's a big question. How do you attract a client base for your own firm in the initial phase? And what are the initial investments for setting up an architecture firm? And Okay, great. I think these 2 points I spend at least in the workshop terms. I think there is one session dedicated to clients and one session dedicated to financial planning. This question actually compresses it into one core, big question in front of us. So about client base, we talk about identifying your client base first. Who is it that you see as your client? You have to know at least 3, 4 of them, if not one particular type of client. You have to at least define for yourself who is going to be the best client. Are you looking for a client who has a lot of money, a lot of big land, and he's going to give you a lot of creative freedom? Then target such audiences in your neighborhood or in your context, wherever you want to set up. It's not difficult to find, but you have to keep your options completely open. You need to know where to find these clients. How do you attract those client base then becomes easier once you know who exactly you want to attract. If you want to attract the entire client base, then I think you will spend a lot of time and resources and still end up with no result. The second question is what is the initial investment for setting up an architecture firm? This actually brings us to an interesting topic about financial planning. I've also written a blog about it for ArcSlate, so probably later, or I don't know if the website has published it yet, but if you can follow me on Instagram, I keep posting whenever there's a new blog published, and it's about financial planning for architects. It talks about stuff like how do you define your fee structure, how do you value your services, is it competitive in the market, how to make sure you're not charging too high or too low for the kind of clientele you're looking at. It's a multifaceted question which has multiple answers. So I think it's interesting. I think I can link you to some blogs or websites in the meantime which can answer your question. Thanks for asking that, by the way.
I'm so sorry. Guys. We're sort of at a crunch, and we have very limited time. So we'll unfortunately be skipping few questions, although very interesting. But so I think if Sagar could take from here.
Yeah, I think most of the questions in the end, especially I saw, answer the how. How do I finally set up? I know why I'm setting up. I know where I'm going to set up. I know, but how do I really go about it? There are these questions about clients, financial planning, and like the ones which we've answered before. I think it'll be interesting for you guys to attend this workshop. And I wish I had such a platform when I started up. But now that you guys have a chance, please attend the workshop. It's just for 2 days, on Saturday and Sunday, 31st and 31st October, 1st November. And we'll be covering broadly these topics, which is identifying your individual strengths and weaknesses, carving your niche, self-assessment and finding your USP, learning to project your USP as a successful brand, building lasting associations and how to build a dream team, strategies to create a viable business plan, and create your business profile outline through a final design challenge. The final design challenge, guys, is going to be really interesting. If you if it all goes well, the final design challenge, you can straight away take it up and put it on your website as 5 pages of your website. We will be making an intro page, an about page, and developing your brand, telling your narrative. It's going to be a really interesting and interactive session. So I think this is I'm excited more than you guys.